Recently, I talked about the group of kids that is trickling into our classrooms and causing chaos. They are known as Generation Alpha. Today, I am talking about the majority of teachers who are in the classrooms, in the trenches with them every single day. I'm looking at you, millennials. You're watching Misfit to Teach. Welcome back, teacher friends. I am Nina Rodriguez. It is wonderful to see you. And this is the Misfit to Teach channel, where I talk about all things teaching and how to stay mentally, physically, and emotionally fit to teach. So if I haven't already met you, if you haven't commented, if you're new to what we are doing here, join our growing community by hitting the subscribe button below and the notification bell so that you and I can have a conversation every week. So as I mentioned, recently I posted this video talking about Gen Alpha, since they are the most relevant group that are in our classrooms as of late. They haven't quite trickled into high school classrooms yet, but they will. And so today I wanted to turn the conversation more towards us, the teachers, the majority of teachers that are in modern day classrooms, and some of the qualities that we find more generally about Gen Y, also known as millennials, and how we can leverage certain characteristics about ourselves in order to maximize our classrooms. The Pew Research Institute establishes that Generation Y, also known as millennials, is the cohort of people that are born between the years 1981 and 1996. So we've pretty much been adulting for a while now, with some of our oldest members hitting their early 40s as of this video, and our youngest ones pushing 30. The bottom line is, we are grown. There's a lot of different markers that characterize Gen Y, but most obviously, they titled it Generation Y because it follows Generation X, so that lettering makes the most sense. But we're also known as the millennials because of our proximity to the turn of the century. So I'll be using those terms interchangeably throughout the video, but just know they mean the same thing. Now, while every single generation has unique characteristics or unique historical markers, I think there are certain things about Gen Y that makes us stand alone. The baby boomers witnessed a change in culture with the shift into television sets. Generation X witnessed a swift change in the home and the workplace with the adoption and the proliferation of the computer. But Generation Y is a different animal altogether. Generation Y is uniquely positioned such that we are the only generation that can recall, most of us can recall a time and a childhood that was spent predominantly in the analog, and then almost overnight, we can recall when our childhood changed with the introduction of the internet and after it took over. The introduction of the internet meant a lot of new things, not just for Gen Y, but for everybody at large, because right away we had instant access and information at our fingertips. It was an exciting time, and we started to establish this feeling of connectedness all the time. Now, granted, Generation Y is a cohort, is a generation that has a lot of bumps and bruises. We have taken a lot of battle scars, having lived through 3 different recessions, having lived through what is arguably a costly and failed war in the Middle East. Not to mention, we had the tragedy of 9/11 that we can remember vividly, as well as a global pandemic. So to say that we are survivors is pretty accurate. And with all of the bumps and bruises that we've accumulated over the years, there are some drawbacks to being a millennial, with Britannica calling us the first modern generation to be economically worse off than our parents. So since we are a diverse generation of survivors and people who have rolled with the punches and lived through dramatic shifts in the culture, there, I think, collectively emerges certain characteristics that may not, of course, fit everybody personally and specifically, but apply to all of us in the millennial generation more generally. And I think this particular set of characteristics are especially useful to us in our classrooms in modern day times when we are contending with Gen Alpha, who requires a lot. So the first of the characteristics I want to talk about when it comes to Gen Y is our adaptability. We're no strangers to change. We know generally that nothing lasts and that the tables turn pretty often. And this can translate in a lot of beneficial ways for us in our classrooms. For one thing, we know now as millennial teachers the importance of having alternate and backup ways of our students accessing information and assignments. We know that we have to have workarounds. We don't rely solely on one specific technology or one specific method of instructional delivery. And this works to our advantage. It helps us to diversify our content and provide access in different ways for our students who have different needs. So if the internet is down in your school, it's a good time to reintroduce the importance of pencil and paper. Small boards that I keep in my classroom where students can quickly write down their answers and erase them and help to participate. All of those things, what they call EPR strategies, are very, very useful, especially with millennial teachers. Our adaptability helps us in things like professional development, staff meetings, IEPs, all of those tie-in things that really affect our day-to-day. Our ability to adapt and to make swift changes is a very, very useful skill, and we're going to continue to need that as the educational landscape gets complicated. Millennials are technologically savvy, and that should come as no surprise to you. We got this skill because we had to. How else were we supposed to update our AOL screen names and check our MySpace accounts were it not for quickly navigating the technological landscape? And in this day and age, when we have all sorts of educational platforms at our fingertips, they should not substitute and become the teacher in the classroom, but they're an excellent way of complementing and supplementing our instruction. As I mentioned in my last video, there are all kinds of remarkable educational platforms that we can be using, most of which are for free or have free versions. And speaking of wonderful platforms to use, this is a great time to remind you to give study.com a try. Study.com has been a wonderful partner. I love using them in my classroom. In addition to providing a foray of different exercises and activities for my students, they have also helped teachers professionally with their licensure into teaching and beyond. So if you are looking for a wonderful platform that can help your students learn and hone skills in their lessons and can also help you navigate your teaching future, give study.com a try. So if you use the link that I've included in the description below this video, I will get you 30% off for your first 3 months. Enjoy. So I would say in this day and age, use technology to create the assignments, to deploy the assignments, and then to grade the assignments for your students so that you're not having to waste or spend your precious and very limited teacher time doing all of those things. Generation Y is a collaborative generation. Having gone through some pretty tough things, we know the importance of sticking together and working through problems together, and we also value the efficiency that togetherness brings when it comes to problem solving. Collaboration is especially useful for teachers because it allows us to delegate and outsource out tasks that we are not good at or don't have time for, and it allows us to leverage the skills that we are good at to help both ourselves in the classroom as well as our other teachers. So if you're like me and you know that lesson planning is not your strong suit, I hate lesson planning. Then that's a wonderful thing to reach out to your department for in order to see who among you is the better lesson planner, and perhaps they can write at least a skeleton copy of the lessons for some of you or all of you or just you, while you offer your skill sets in a different capacity to your teacher neighbors. I'm really good with lesson implementation and providing activities that engage students. And I love sharing different resources that I have and different knickknacks that I have around that are helpful for lessons and keep kids paying attention. Those are the things that I'm good at, and those are the things that I love to share. So when we outsource out and collaborate together to tackle problems, it helps us to save a lot of time, and it's one of the best things that's going to help save you your teacher sanity. Generation Y is a generation that you may notice about yourself values work-life balance. I think historically this comes from all of us, a lot of us being latchkey kids who watch some of our parents maybe work long jobs or 2 and 3 jobs and really have to work hard to make ends meet. We know what it's like for our dads and our moms to stay in the same career for 30 years and beyond. We even have some of those veteran teachers who are about to retire who have really been in the trenches for a very long time and stuck through an array of challenges. That brand of loyalty just isn't ingrained in Gen Y. And if we see other opportunities where the grass is greener on the other side, we will go on to greener pastures. So since life-work balance is so important to us millennials, the best thing that I can tell you is to designate a day out of the week during your working hours that you will stay late, and then set your timer to do your tasks, whether it's grading, reconciling your grade book, writing IEPs, making parent contacts. As that timer is running, you have to have an inward agreement with yourself that you are going to leave after a designated time. This is one of those career paths where if tasks can bleed into other parts of your life, it necessarily will. And so I think it's bloody difficult for educators, but really, really important that we do a better job of compartmentalizing and making sure that our working hours are our working hours and everything else is exactly that. If you have a personal day or two that you can spare, I would advise you to go ahead and take the personal day. If you're just mentally or emotionally not in a good place and you know it would benefit you to step back from your classroom, you do yourself a disservice and your students when you show up to work feeling burnt out, put out, and out of energy. And if it's been a while, I invite you to re-engage with your hobbies and important relationships and your priorities outside of work that nurture your spirit and strengthen your body, because a well-rounded teacher is one that can stay for the long term. And finally, and probably less flatteringly, some studies would call us lazy or narcissistic or even spoiled. And while we can't control the way the outside world perceives us, as long as they're gonna call us self-centered, we may as well make it count. As a millennial, I think you owe it to yourself and you have a certain responsibility to nurture your life, your career, your professional aspirations, and your personal goals. Ask yourself, what is it that you want out of teaching? Not so much what you want to provide to your students or your school community. What are you looking for that's going to light you up inside, that's going to make you feel fulfilled, that's going to make you feel like you've made a genuine contribution? What are you trying to do with the trajectory of your career? I want you, as you go through your teaching path, to do your best to stay really focused on your purpose and why you're a teacher. And aside from that, pursue the things that would complement and as well as supplement both your salary and your talents. Be selfish about what you want to do with your career and where you want to go 5 years and 10 years from now. Do you still want to be a teacher in the next few years? How long would you like to be a teacher? What kind of money would you like to make? And if you plan on climbing up the ladder in education, how far would you like to go and what do you want to do? Is it in you to be an assistant principal or an instructional coach or a content area supervisor? How do you want to be a teacher leader and lead in whatever capacity you're in? Take some time to be selfish and think about what you want for your life, because those are going to be the thoughts, and that's going to be the emotion and the motivation that fuels you through some of your hardest days. And there will be hard days. So adaptation, tech savviness, collaboration, work-life balance, and a healthy dose of narcissism. That's what it is to be a millennial, baby. And we can say that unapologetically because we are a huge portion of the workforce, we are an integral part of the global community, and we are making a difference. If this has resonated with you, be sure to like and leave a comment below. Share this with your teacher friends and let me know how you as a millennial teacher are doing in your classroom and what you are doing to move the needle in the right direction. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, do all you can to stay fit to teach. Be well, millennial teacher.